Hey everybody, Jared here, and today I'm going to show you, as I say goodbye to, my Stereo Realist Camera. This is the de facto standard of 3D film still cameras. They're pretty awesome. Normally it'd be like in a leather case, and back then cameras always came in leather cases, which is great because it kind of ruggedized them and also ensured the light proof of them, but the leather case, long gone on this one. This one also has a dual flip-up lens cap, but it flips way up. It's actually detached and a little bit smashed in places. It's kind of got cool. It's got information on the inside that's kind of neat. Now, the Stereo Realist camera is really like the most amazing camera you've ever seen. It's also one of the most confusing cameras to possibly ever shoot with. Now, one of the cool things about this is I've got an add-on unit. So you're like, there are 3 lenses. No. There's 1 lens, there's 2 lenses. There's a viewfinder and another viewfinder. It's actually very confusing because it's like 11 steps to take a photo. What's cool about this is that I have this little add-on ring, which I got, which allows me to pop it in because you want to make sure that your photos are always level. And the best way to do that is to make sure your photos are always level. Now, it's, again, a very strange camera. It's a 35mm film camera. And back in the day, people would use slide film because they would develop the slides. They would put them into viewers. They'd hold up the light and you'd view it that way. Of course, nowadays, I can put any type of film I want and develop it, scan them in, and then do everything digitally in post. But if you're doing it back in the day, this was a slide film camera. Again, 35mm. Coming over here to the bottom's got a little locking mechanism. I unlock it. It allows me to take off the entire back. The back's got this little kind of little springy push plate, which is going to come very important because it actually keeps the film up against the film plane. And of course, you put the film in here. You lift it up, put the film in here. You bring it under this thing over here, which is very important because there's sprockets there that register that the film is moving, and then you slide it into here, and then you wind it. Now, of course, it's locked right now because there's this little button here, and if I press that button, it doesn't actually unlock it. I've got to press the button and start to turn, and when I do start to turn, it unlocks it, and it allows me to turn, and what happens is it starts to pull against that little gear there, and it stops the right amount of time. So every time you have to advance the camera, you literally press the button, start to turn, and you let go while you're turning, and then it'll stop automatically because the moment the right amount of film has passed, it'll actually stop right there. It's a pretty cool advancing mechanism because what ends up happening is that when you advance, you're going to keep advancing and you're going to interlace your images together. You're going to get 2 images, another 2, then another 2. And so what ends up happening is you've got these pictures here that are like 5 sprockets wide. The normal picture is 8 sprockets wide. You've got 5 sprockets and you've got 10 sprockets separating them, another 5 sprockets. So when the pictures come out, the film is very bizarre. And again, people would be very carefully to slice it up and put them into a viewer. In this case, we'll just scan them and be done with it. Now, what's really neat about the focus on this is that when you focus this camera, the lenses actually don't move at all. It's kind of a weird thing. What ends up happening is that if you look over here, if you look carefully, you'll see that the entire film plane is going up and down. And because what you end up doing is you're moving the film back and forth in front of the lenses instead of the lenses back and forth in front of the film. And the reason that you do this is because there's 2 lenses. And it's a lot easier to move a plane than it is to move individual items. And so it was just a really good design. And of course, with that design, you need the spring to make sure that the film is being pushed up against the film plane. All right, so there you go. So it's got the David White company. You've got where the film goes in, loads like a normal 35mm old film camera. Again, relatively simple. And then, of course, you've got, again, it goes right under there to make sure that it gets into the sprocket so that it actually does advance properly. And then, of course, you've got the 2 openings, and that's it for now. So I can pretend that I've loaded some film in the camera, lock it back into place, voila. All right, so here it is, 35mm Stereo Realist camera. Now, the weirdest part about this is there's so many little things you have to do here. Firstly, there are 2 viewfinders in the back of the camera. This viewfinder is a straight viewfinder that goes out through the center between the 2. And it's really used to figure out where your shot's going to be. Again, you want things to be level because if you shoot a picture like this, you can't straighten it in post because you'd be straightening into the photos and it wouldn't be a stereo pair anymore. It'd be in the middle of a stereo pair and that'd be bad. So you want to keep the camera as level as you can at all times, and being able to look through here and see the level is pretty awesome. And when I'm done, I'm going to shoot the other way and see if I can get you to see what it looks like through there. All right, so this is through the lens. It's straight through, by the way. It's literally front to back. You look through the hole, you go out the front. There it is, straightforward. Now that allows you to get an idea of framing your photos. So that's step 1, composition. Step 2 would be focus. Now, what's weird about this is that this camera doesn't have a focus ring as you would normally think about it. Instead, what it has is a range finding system. And what you'll notice is that on one side, there's like a little prism, and on the other side, there's a little prism. And both of those prisms come together for you to look on the other one of these things. And when I look through the second one, what I'm going to see is a top and a bottom image. And again, one image is going this way, one image is going this way. And then what I end up doing is I end up aligning the images until what I want to be in focus is lined up. So what ends up happening is that you're going to see there's different ways that you line things up. Things that are near will line up, things that are far will line up, because it's the way that the mirrors and the prisms work. And what ends up happening is when the item that you want is perfectly in line, then using this what's called a rangefinder, I'm able to determine how far away that item is. And so what ends up happening here is I don't even have to, I can actually just look at the numbers if I want to and say, I want to focus at 5 feet away, and there it is, 5 feet away. But if I look through the rangefinder is calibrated to know that that's 5 feet away. So again, it really is the focus, but the focus isn't designed for you to see what looks like it's crisp and focused, but to take these two halves and to line them up in what's called a range-finding system. And a range-finding cameras is an old way of doing things, and they're really, really cool because rangefinders actually work. It uses the parallax as a way of trying to figure out how things line up. And if you've never seen it, it's pretty cool. And again, I'll flip it around and see if I can show it through the lens of my camera. There's the door. How far away is it from me? Well, let me come over here and guess that it's about, 6 feet away. That's about right. So now what happens when I look through the hole on the back is that I should see the white part of the door. And you see how it's not lined up properly? Well, if I were to adjust the side thing over here until the lines line up perfectly, that would be the proper range, which means that my camera would be in focus. So step 1, frame your shot. Step 2, focus your shot using the range finding system. And again, you've got the actual mathematics of it. If you know how many feet away it is, you're going to say, I'm setting it to 10 feet, and that's where your focus point is. And again, everything you need to know about photography, about shutter speed and aperture is going to apply here. Shutter speed and aperture. Let's do aperture next. Aperture is really wild. Aperture is on one side. They actually, if I do the aperture, you'll notice they both spin. What's cool about the aperture, it goes all the way from 3.5 to f22. And what's neat about the aperture on this camera is that it's continuous. It doesn't go click, click, click. So if I decided that I wanted somewhere between f5.6 and f8, I can literally just tune it any way I want. So it is a continuous aperture. And I think that is something that is really, really amazing. If you're an old school photographer, continuous aperture is just wonderful because you literally can go exactly the way you want to go. All right. So I have framed my picture. I have range-finded my picture. I have set my aperture, and now I must set my shutter speed. Now, the dangerous part is this is a mechanical shutter, and the springs on these things get really, really old. Now, there's a guy in Cleveland named Dr. T who had reconditioned this camera, who sold it to me way back when. He's going to be so mad when he finds out how beat up it is. Anyway, he can't fix the shutter, but he can time the shutter. So he actually goes through and he actually tests every single shutter speed and tells you what the actual shutter speed is. So on this camera, back when I had it tested, 1/100 is really 1/81. And 1/150 was also 1/81. So 1/81 was as fast as this camera goes. So you just have to know that when you're saying, like, what's the speed of my camera? The other ones were actually pretty much on target. And of course, there's also B, if you want to do bulb, and T as well. So let me come back over here to 1/150. So again, and then the next thing you do is you cock the shutter. Now, you never want to leave the shutter cocked, because if you leave it long term, that's a spring waiting to sprung. All right, so I've got almost everything ready to go. Look, focus, aperture, shutter speed, cock, and trigger. There you go. I've shot a photo, yay, but I'm not done. I'm not done. You'll notice, by the way, that this little dot is now red. It means I need to advance the film. So I would come over here, press the button, and start to turn this, and I would let the button go, and it'll start to turn this. Now, if you'll notice, it stayed red, and that's because there's no film in the camera. If I were to come over here and open the camera again and pretend there was film in the camera, if I were to do this again, if I were to do this and to start to do this in advance, what you'll notice is that when I start to move that sprocket, now it's back to silver. And again, if I load it and press the button, silver turns to red. And that's pretty cool. The thing I love about a film camera is that people don't realize like how important the film was to the film camera. In a digital camera, people think about the memory card as being so important, but the memory card is only half of what film represents. The film is also the sensor, and we replace the sensor on a film camera every single roll. By the way, when you're done, you switch the little thing here from A, from advanced, to R for reverse, and now the sprocket is loosened and I can reverse my film all I want. And that is the care and feeding of a Stereo Realist camera. Again, this was an amazing camera. There are other stereo cameras out there, but if you are like a stereo person, this is it. By the way, you can use a flash in here. What you'll notice is that this one's been ground down so that a modern flash can work in it, which is kind of a fun one as well. All right, I think I've gone through almost every feature on this camera. It is really, really fun. Has a tripod mount, which, by the way, is not under the optical center of the camera. So if you definitely have to be careful about that. The tripod is here. I would have put the tripod here, but hey, what are you going to do? All right, well, this is the Stereo Realist camera. My name is Jared Bendis. Let's say goodbye to it because I traded it to somebody, so it's pretty cool. Buy a Stereo Realist camera. He's going to have a good time with it. He's going to probably run black and white film through it, and then we're going to do a whole thing on how you turn black and white negatives into 3D photos that you can view on your computer in another video. All right, I'm going to go film through the holes to see if I can cut those in. If not, this is the end of the video. Well, this is the end of the video anyway. So thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, comment, and yeah, have a good one.